So who remembers the Choose Your Own Adventure stories? I used to read these a lot when I was a kid. I loved going to the library and checked out all these that were available. So a while ago, I bought a few copies off of eBay. I got 6 of them to read for old time's sake. They were only a few dollars, so I thought it would be relaxing to read them again, just take a break from heavy reading, read something fun and light. And I decided I'd share them here on my channel in case there's anyone else who would enjoy a trip down memory lane with me. This one is The Magic of the Unicorn. In the introduction, I think it's interesting how it says, "Only you are responsible for your fate because only you can make these decisions. After you make each choice, follow the instructions to see what happens to you next." And for those of us who grew up reading these, I think the adults enjoyed that message of you're responsible for your own decisions. They're not going to take responsibility for us. So this starts, page 1 has a few illustrations in it. The summer of 1507 is exceptionally dry throughout Flanders. Fires scorch the forests, crops wither, and animals collapse with thirst. Nowhere is the drought as severe as in your own small village. Just last week, when you went to check the dwindling water supply, you discovered a dead rat floating in the well upon which everyone depended. Since then, the water has been foul and tainted. The barrels of rainwater are nearly empty, and all attempts to dig a new well have yielded nothing but dry earth. One morning, after weeding the field you inherited when your parents died 10 years ago, you pay a visit to Mary Claire. She is the oldest person in the village and one of your special friends. Some people say, "This might be the last summer any of us lives to see you," tell her sadly. "None of the other villages around has enough water to share with us, and it's hopeless to keep trying to dig a new well. I wish there were something I could do about it." Mary Claire looks up from her knitting. "You could try to lure a unicorn to the well. Why, the touch of its horn purifies even poison." "But Marie Claire," you exclaim, "around here unicorns are rarer than water. I bet it would be easier to find the sorceress than a unicorn." "That's a good idea," she replies. "I'm sure the sorceress knows all about unicorns. Why don't you look for her?" "But no one has seen her in years," you remind Mary Claire. "The last person who tried to find her never even returned." "Ah, but you are 10 times smarter than anyone who has ever searched for the sorceress. If anyone can find her, it is you. Although you feel flattered, you are not sure you are really clever enough." "Well, I'll give it a try. I wonder if I still remember that riddle describing the way to find the sorceress. Is this right?" You take a deep breath and recite, "Near a land reserved for woe, in a place that's high but low, watch which way the bat doth go, find me there, and I will know." Turn to page 5. Another illustration. "Perfect," says Mary Claire as she hands you a glass pendant shaped like a raindrop. "Put this on for good luck. Use it as you need it, my friend." You say goodbye to Mary Claire, then roam the parched fields. After pondering the riddle, you think of 2 places reserved for woe. The sorceress could mean the village graveyard, or the small camp outside the village where 2 lepers live in gloomy isolation. If you head for the graveyard, turn to page 11. If you decide to go to the lepers' camp, turn to page 8. I think I'll go to the graveyard. I actually like visiting cemeteries. I think they're really peaceful, and it's interesting reading the engravings on the headstones and seeing all the different styles through the eras. And of course I don't go there at night, but during the day it's really peaceful, so I like to visit different ones. Even though the path to the graveyard is all downhill, you are hot and thirsty by the time you arrive there. You sit in the shade of a drooping tree to cool off. As you watch parched leaves float to the dusty ground, you consider the next line of the riddle. In a place that's high but low, What can be both high and low? Looking around, you notice the rolling slopes of the hills along the far side of the graveyard. They seem to be both high and low. But then the church bell rings, striking noon. Turning, you realize the steeple of the church also fits the riddle. The church itself is in a low valley, but the steeple towers high above the village. If you walk over to the hills, turn to page 3. If you enter the church, turn to page 16. I think I'll go into the church. When you go inside the church, Brother Mikel looks up from the candelabrum he is polishing. I was just wishing for some company. What are you up to, my friend? I'm looking for the sorceress, you explain. You explain your interpretation of the riddle. Brother Mikel strokes his chin. I don't believe anyone has ever considered the graveyard or steeple when figuring out that riddle, so you may be on the right track. The next line of the riddle says to watch which way the bat goes, you tell him. Have you ever seen bats here? Plenty, he exclaims. At night they fly around the steeple. I've heard them down in the cellar too, although I never actually go there. I didn't know there was a cellar under the church. Oh, there's a crawl space there, but it's too small to be very useful, says Brother Mikel. Not only that, it's so infested with spiders that no one dares set foot in it. In fact, it would be a clever place for the sorceress to hide. If I had the courage, I'd go look there. You are tempted to investigate the cellar, even though you don't like the idea of running into a web full of spiders. You also remind yourself that the riddle mentions a place that's high but low, and the cellar doesn't fit that description as well as the steeple does. If you want to explore the cellar, turn to page 20. If you think the steeple is a better choice, turn to page 9. Definitely the steeple. I will avoid the spiders. Will you help me climb up the steeple, you ask Brother Mikel. I'll hoist you onto the rafter, but after that you're on your own, he says. I'm afraid to climb that high. Brother Mikel lifts you over his head up toward the rafter. You grab the beam. After a few seconds of scrambling, you right yourself safely on the rafter. What are you going to do next? Calls Brother Mikel nervously. You look around. See that rope dangling from the church bell? Would you please move it closer so I can grab hold of it and climb all the way to the top of the steeple? He takes hold of the bottom of the rope and carries it toward you. I can't bring it any closer, he says. I'll have to take a leap. Let's hope I can grab that rope, you tell him, with more confidence than you actually feel. Here goes. It says turn to page 23. Another picture. You hurl your body toward the rope and miraculously manage to grab it tightly. As you sway from side to side, the clanging of the bell is almost deafening. Oh no, wails Brother Mikel. Now the whole village will come running to find out why the bell is ringing. Just wait till they see I've allowed you to climb all over the church. You pay no attention. A trapdoor by the base of the bell has swung open, releasing a frightened bat. It flutters anxiously around you, then swoops out the window below. What's behind that door up there, you ask Brother Mikel. I had no idea it was there, he replies. Then the next line of the riddle, watch which way the bat doth go, springs into your mind. You think you should probably follow the bat out the window, but you're very curious about the trap door. If you begin climbing down to follow the bat, turn to page 50. If you can't wait a minute longer to find out what's behind the trap door, turn to page 69. I think I should stick to following the riddle, so I'll go to page 50, following the bat. Could you tell me where the bat went, you ask Brother Mikel as you climb down. He dashes out and hurries back. It's sitting on the ledge outside the window. You swing the rope toward the rafter and jump onto the beam. The bell clings crazily. I'll distract the villagers so they don't scare the bat away, Brother Mikel tells you. You thank him. I'm going to lower myself onto the windowsill, then go out on the ledge, you say. Taking a deep breath, you step through the window onto the narrow wooden ledge. The sun-scorched wood feels hot on your bare feet. You flatten your back against the building and try to control the dizziness that threatens to overwhelm you. The bat cocks its head at you expectantly, then flutters further along the ledge. You are terrified to take another step. You squeeze your eyes shut, conscious only of the blood pounding in your ears. Go to page 56. You finally force yourself to open your eyes. The bat is still waiting. As you edge toward it, an enormous splinter pierces your foot. Unbearable pain pulses up your leg, filling your entire body. Your leg jerks into the air and your arms fly out in a desperate attempt to steady yourself. But there is nothing to grab. You scream with horror as you plummet to the ground. When you regain consciousness, a crowd of villagers is gathered around you. "You're alive, thank heaven," cries Mary Claire. "Yes, but you've broken both your legs," says Brother Mikel. "You know your search for the sorceress is over." The end. Oh, a wonderful story for children. Break both your legs, and that's the end. I think I'll go through it again and see if we can get a better ending. I have to leave right now, but I'll come back another day, finish the video, and see if we can find the unicorn or the sorceress. I hate to just leave it that way with broken legs. So, I'll see you soon. Okay, I'm back. So now I'll see if I can get a better outcome. I've never read this one before, and so it's a surprise to me. So I'll just pick up from the first decision rather than reading from all the way from the beginning again. So the first choice was between the graveyard or the leper's camp. So this time I'll turn to page 8. Try the leper's camp. There are 27 different endings, so there are actually a lot of options, which is the fun of these stories. When I was younger too, I would read them over and over again to try and get all the endings eventually. So you turn down the path to the leper's shabby hut. You know the villagers stay far from the lepers for fear of catching their dreaded skin disease, and they will be very upset if they ever learn you visited the lepers. When you first glimpse the two swollen faces peering out of the doorway, you panic, then force yourself to continue toward them. "Welcome, friend. Please come inside," says one of the lepers warmly. "Thanks, but I'll stay outside," you reply. "I'm looking for the sorceress. The riddle says she lives near a place of woe, and I thought that might mean your home. Since no one will have anything to do with us, this is indeed a woeful place," says the second leper. But I don't think it's the one your riddle describes. We have never seen the sorceress. In fact, I think even she must be afraid of catching our disease." "Is leprosy that bad, you ask?" "No," says the first man, "but the way people treat us is horrible. In fact, you'd better hurry back. If anyone sees you here, they won't let you return home." Turn to page 19. You say goodbye to the men and head toward home. As you reach the road to the village, you meet several of your neighbors. Their faces whiten, their eyes dart back and forth between you and the lepers, who are still standing by their doorway. "Stay back," shouts one man. "Keep away." "It's all right," you insist. "I was just there for a minute." "You can't return to the village. Go back to the lepers," shrieks another neighbor, eyeing you fearfully. As you start to follow them, the villagers gather stones. "Leper, leper," they scream, throwing rocks at you. Go to page 6. Filled with horror, you race away from the villagers. You slowly realize you can't go home, but cling to the hope that their panic will subside in a few days, especially if you find a way to purify the well. Since you can't continue your search for the sorceress by investigating the graveyard, you decide to concentrate on finding a unicorn. You turn away from your village and walk along the road toward the forest, hoping to find a unicorn there. Before long, you hear a cart approaching behind you. The driver is Simon, a traveling peddler you've always liked. You wave to him and ask, "Where are you going?" Simon pulls the cart to a halt beside you. "Everyone around here is too upset about the drought to take much interest in my trinkets. I'm going to try my luck in the city of Arras. At least people will be trading there. Want to join me? I wouldn't mind some company for such a long trip. Arras, you've never been to the city before. Although you would love to go, you suspect unicorns are more likely to live in the forest. But maybe you could meet someone in Arras who could tell you how to find a unicorn. There's the drawing on that page. If you decide to search for a unicorn in the forest, turn to page 12. If you climb in the cart headed for Arras, turn to page 14. Let's see. I guess we'll go to the forest. Page 12. Thanks, but I can't go with you now. How about another time, you tell Simon. You wave goodbye as he continues down the road. When he disappears from view, you leave the road and make your way into the shadowy forest. The air is parched and still, even the birds are quiet. As you travel deeper into the forest, the only sound you hear is the crunching of your footsteps on dry leaves. After several hours of walking, you notice a few long strands of silver tangled in a bush. You hold your discovery up to the light, trying to decide whether it is fine thread or hair. You've never seen anything like it. As you look around for other strands of silver, you spot several small hoof prints. They are too little to belong to a horse and aren't the right shape for a deer. Your heart stops for a second when you realize the hoof prints and the silver strands may be traces of a unicorn. You search for more evidence and are surprised to see that the hoof prints lead in one direction and the silver hairs in another. You pause, trying to decide which way to go. Picture. If you follow the hoof prints, turn to page 32. If you head in the direction of the silver strands, turn to page 51. Let's see. I guess I will follow the hoof prints. You track the hoof prints to a small clearing. There you find a small white horse nibbling wild flowers. The animal raises its head and stares at you for a second before breaking into a frenzied gallop. You hesitate, trying to decide if it is just a horse or if it could possibly be a more magical creature. If you run after the animal, turn to page 41. If you turn away and follow the silver strands, turn to page 102. Well, I didn't mention it having a horn, so maybe I'll choose to follow the silver strands. Page 102. Although you try to retrace your steps carefully, you can't find any more strands of silver. After several hours of searching, you stop at a small pond for a drink of water. But when you look more closely, you are repelled by a thick layer of scum floating on the surface. Tired and thirsty, you sit down beside the pond to rest. As you try to decide what to do next, you pluck a pod from a peculiar plant that you've never seen before. You open the pod and idly toss the seeds one by one into the stagnant pond. You blink with disbelief as the water suddenly begins to sparkle. Quickly tearing open another pod, you throw a seed into the pond. You watch with amazement as the water becomes so clear you can see the bottom. When you take a sip, you find it is as fresh as you could ever want. Breathless with excitement, you gather as many of the strange pods as you can find. The villagers accept you back when they learn you can purify the water. By keeping the location of the plants a secret, you eventually earn a small fortune purifying other wells with the mysterious seeds. Before long, your seeds replace unicorn horns as the most highly regarded method of purifying water. The end. Well, that was a better ending, at least. So, I hope you enjoyed the story, and I might do one more ending just to see what happens with a few other different choices. I have time for one more ending, so I hope you have fun discovering one more ending with me before I end this video. So, going back to the first choice, which was the graveyard or the leper's camp, I'll choose the graveyard again and then make different choices on the next decision, which was either to walk over to the hills or go to the church. And the first time I went to the church, so this time I'll walk over to the hills. just page 3. You decide to climb to the top of the highest hill. Once there, you wipe your brow and look around. Feeling a little perplexed, you remind yourself of the next line of the riddle. Watch which way the bat doth go. But there are no bats in sight. As you pace impatiently, wondering what to do, you come upon a cave opening near the top of the hill. You poke your head inside, but it is too dark to see anything. Hello, hello, you call, but only your own voice echoes back. The cave seems like a perfect place to find a bat, and maybe even the sorceress as well. If you enter the cave to look for the bat, turn to page 34. If you think it's best to watch for a bat before you do anything else, turn to page 27. I think I'll enter the cave and look for the bat rather than waiting around. The cave is so dark you can't see where you're walking. You grope along slowly. Suddenly you feel a stone wobble beneath your feet. You find yourself plunging through the blackness deep into the earth. 450 years later, a team of geologists discovers your skeleton. They spend several days trying to figure out what you were doing in such a deep chasm, but are unable to reach a conclusion. The end. Oh, that was a quick read for that time, for the ending. So I'm going to go back to the prior page and see if I can stretch it out a little longer to get more of a story. So instead I'll choose to watch and wait for the bat. Oh, and there's a picture on that page, and there's the bat. Sweat streams down your face as you wait by the cave. At sunset, you finally spot a bat zigzagging through the air. Instead of flying into the cave beside you, it soars to the side of the hill where you follow it into a second cave you haven't seen before. You shiver with excitement as you grope your way through the darkness, listening to the sound of beating wings. Suddenly, lightning streaks across your path, striking the ground just inches from your toes. Before you can catch your breath, a second bolt flashes, followed immediately by yet another. Your heart is pounding with terror when you hear someone mutter, "Magic Mother of Merlin, where's the thunder?" "Who's there?" you call nervously. Turn to page 33. An enormous flash of lightning illuminates the cave, revealing a wizened old woman draped in purple velvet. "A visitor," she exclaims, and the next thing you know, daylight has replaced the darkness. "Congratulations," she cackles. "It's been 261 years since anyone has been able to find me. I hope I didn't scare you. I was just practicing my storms. For the life of me, I can't get the thunder to work." You open your mouth to say hello, but instead of your voice, a deep rumble of thunder emerges from the back of your throat. "There's the thunder," she shrieks gleefully. You are afraid to open your mouth again. "Don't be shy," says the sorceress warmly. "I want to know why you've come." Hesitantly, you part your lips a bit. No thunder roars, so you tell the sorceress about the tainted water in your village well. She shakes her head. "Sorry to disappoint you, but I can't clean up that mess in your well. Water is not my domain. Never has been, never will be. Why, I can't even create rain to go with my thunder and lightning." Turn to page 28. You are undaunted. "What about the unicorns? Do you know anything about them?" you ask the sorceress. "I've heard they can purify water." The words have barely left your lips when you see a handsome unicorn stepping lightly around the cave. You reach out to stroke its flank, but the unicorn vanishes abruptly. "Just an illusion," the sorceress explains. "It's as close as I can come to creating a real unicorn, but it's no good for cleaning water." "Have you ever seen a real unicorn?" "Several times," she replies casually. "In fact, there's a unicorn living in the forest." "Can you tell me where to find it in the forest?" She shakes her head. "I'm afraid not, but I should be able to help you some other way. If you'll excuse me, I'm going to change into something more comfortable. I always think more clearly as the wind." You watch with astonishment as she flings her purple robe over her shoulder and spins until she seems to be a lavender tornado. The next thing you know, the tornado fades and a cold wind rushes around the cave, howling and shrieking. A violet cloud slowly forms, and from it the sorceress emerges. "I've got it," she announces breathlessly. "I can cast one of two spells that may help you find the unicorn. I can give you the power to speak with animals, or I can knit you a golden net for catching magical beasts. Take your pick. If you answer, I want to be able to talk with the animals, turn to page 44. If you say, would you please make me the golden net, turn to page 49. Let's see. A golden net, or be able to talk to the animals. How about be able to talk to the animals, page 44. Even if you can't find a unicorn, you'll have fun talking with other animals, says the sorceress. She scoops a handful of brown flakes from a basket. What is that? Ears and tongues from 12 creatures, she explains. You look away with disgust as she puts the flakes into a bowl and crushes them into powder. Ready? The sorceress carefully spoons the powder into each of your ears. Open your mouth. Now don't worry, this will dissolve and you won't taste it at all. She places a dab under your tongue. You can barely tell it's there. How do I know if it works? Go ahead and try it, she suggests. Call my bat. Bat, hey bat, you shout, feeling a little silly. Within seconds, the creature flutters toward you and squeaks. You called? Please lead me to the forest. You thank the sorceress, then follow the bat out of the cave and through the hills to the edge of the moonlit forest. There you say goodbye to the bat. Hearing a rustling above the branches, you call, hello? An owl swoops out of the darkness, startling you as it lands on your shoulder. You must be a friend of the sorceress, it hoots. Yes, I am. The well in my village is tainted, so I'm looking for a unicorn to clean the water. You'll have to decide whether you want just the horn or the unicorn itself, says the owl. Why? This afternoon a warlock cut off the horn of the only unicorn I know. I'm not sure how magical a unicorn is without it, but I'm willing to bet the horn hasn't made the warlock any less wicked. That demon isn't going to be eager to lend you his new treasure. I can lead you to either, but neither one may be useful. If you answer, please take me to the unicorn. Turn to page 53. If you are determined to get the magic horn from the warlock, turn to page 54. Unicorn or the warlock? Well, I'll try the unicorn. The owl flaps its wings to the unicorn. You hurry after the owl, stumbling on roots and thrashing through brambles. Slow down, you call. I can't see in the dark as well as you can. Human beings, hoots the owl scornfully. Why don't you sleep now, and we'll go to unicorn in the morning? Good idea, you reply. You curl up at the foot of an oak tree and soon drift into a deep and dreamless sleep. When you awake the next morning, the owl is perched on your shoulder. I'm so glad you suggested I rest, you say as you stretch your arms. I feel great. Good, now let's get going. You can eat some berries along the way. Turn to page 24. The two of you make your way through the sun-streaked forest. Even though you know the unicorn has lost its horn, you feel certain you'll find a way to clean the well. Maybe the unicorn could tell me where to find another unicorn, one that still has its horn, you chatter happily. I bet the unicorn must know all kinds of ways to clean water. You soon reach a small clearing. There a crowd of woodland animals is gathered around the unicorn, who is lying on the ground. Oh no, moans the owl. What's wrong, you ask? Is the unicorn sleeping? I don't mind waiting. The animals turn to stare at you. You're too late, says a squirrel. The unicorn is dead. The end. That was sad. I think it would probably be better to go after the warlock to get the horn. Page 54. Oh, he's menacing looking. It's the magic horn I need, not the rest of the unicorn, you tell the owl. I want to meet the warlock. Follow me. The owl leads you along a dry stream bed where water flowed before the drought. After walking a few miles, you spot the flickering of a campfire. Squinting your eyes, you can just make out a small figure dancing around the flames. Is that the warlock? Lower your voice, scolds the owl. He has extraordinary hearing and the sharpest of eyes. When you are finally close enough to get a good look, a tight knot of panic forms in your stomach. The warlock's eyes glow red in the darkness, and his gleeful howls strike terror in your heart. "Well, I guess I'll just have to ask if he'll lend me the unicorn horn," you whisper to the owl. "How many times do I have to tell you? He isn't a kind-hearted soul. In fact, he has no heart at all. He's not much taller than me. Maybe I can sneak up on him and wrestle him to the ground," you suggest. "Then I can grab the horn and run away before he can stand up." You sound more confident than you really feel. "Are you sure? The warlock won't hesitate to use magic to win a battle," warns the owl. If you decide to reason with the warlock, turn to page 68. If you think you are strong enough to overpower the warlock, turn to page 80. Let's see what happens trying reason. "I'll ask the warlock to lend me the unicorn horn," you announce. Although you try to sound casual, your hands are trembling. "Good luck," says the owl. I'll wait here." You walk closer to the campfire before calling, "Hello?" The warlock abruptly stops dancing. As he strides toward you, his glowing red eyes are fixed on Mary Claire's talisman. You slowly extend both hands, palms up, to show you have no weapons. The warlock studies you warily, then shakes your hand. You try not to shudder as his hot, blistered hand touches yours. After describing the danger facing your village, you ask if he would lend you his unicorn horn. The warlock laughs sourly. "Between the world of angels and the land of demons, there is no one who will ever touch my unicorn horn. Banish that idea from your mind immediately." "But," a sly grin spreads across the warlock's face, "for a certain price I could concoct a potion to clean your well." "I have no money." "It's not money that I want." The warlock stares intently at the pendant hanging from your neck. "Where did you get that?" "From my friend, Mary Claire. Give it to me and I'll mix the potion for you." Turn to page 78. You hesitate, but Mary Claire's words, "Use it as you need it," echo in your mind. You unclasp the charm and give it to the warlock. He returns to his campsite and begins mixing the potion in a goatskin flask. He finally hands it to you and says, "Pour this in your well tomorrow night before the moon rises. By the time the moon sets, your water will be pure." Thank you." You hurry back to the owl and gleefully shout, "Let's go. I'm going to save my village." And you do. The end. There's the well. I wonder if you ever actually find the unicorn. I'm just gonna flip through and see, because otherwise the video will get too long if I keep trying all the endings. Let's see, there's unicorn. Oh, that was the white horse without its horn. And then it says, "I'm a unicorn. If you'll release me, I'll tell you why my horn is missing." You let go of the unicorn and smooth its tangled mane. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. Normally I would shake you right off, but several hours ago the warlock, the terror of this forest, cut off my horn. Without it I have no magic or strength. I'll be dead by daybreak." "Oh no," you cry. Part of you feels compelled to help the unicorn, or at least stay with it through the night. Yet another part of you wants to look for the warlock before he gets too far away with the horn. If you decide to help the unicorn, turn to page 66. If you ask the unicorn, "Where can I find the warlock?" turn to page 62. Well, of course, have to help the unicorn. "What can I do to help you?" asks the unicorn. The unicorn sighs. "There is only one way you can save me, and even then I'm not sure it will work." "Tell me what it is." "When thousands of teardrops are combined with moonlight," explains the unicorn, "they form a rainbow of tears, which has special healing powers for unicorns." "I'll do it," you exclaim eagerly. "It's kind of you to offer, but the rainbow probably requires more tears than you can weep." "You'd be surprised how much I can cry," you insist. "It takes thousands of tears," the unicorn reminds you. "I could run home to get my friends to help, too," you suggest, although you're not really sure anyone in the village will listen to you. The unicorn shakes its head sadly. "There is so little time. Remember, by dawn I'll be dead." If you decide to cry the rainbow of tears yourself, turn to page 99. If you decide to bring your friends to help cry for the unicorn, turn to page 110. Well, there's not time to get the friends, so page 99. Let me try to cry the rainbow of tears, you insist. I am touched by your kindness and courage. The unicorn glances at the sky. The moon will rise in a few hours. Until then, just rest. When the darkness cloaks the forest and the moon is high, the unicorn murmurs, "It's time." You remind yourself of every unhappiness you've ever experienced, and tears begin to trickle down your cheeks. Then you imagine all the kinds of misfortunes that could happen in the future. You sob uncontrollably as tears drip off your nose and chin, soaking your shirt. You cry so hard you begin to cough, but nothing happens. No matter how much you weep, no rainbow appears. "I'm sorry it isn't working," you whisper to the unicorn. "No one can fault you for trying." The unicorn rests its head on your lap. As morning approaches, it begins to croon sorrowfully. The unicorn's song of death pierces through the darkness, penetrating the dreams of people far and wide. With the first blush of dawn, the unicorn's voice falters, and you notice the sound of galloping hoofs. Before you have a chance to wonder who is approaching, a unicorn plunges through the shrubs. It halts beside you and lowers its lustrous horn to touch the head of the dying unicorn. Their eyes meet. You watch the unicorn in your lap smile peacefully, then close its eyes for the last time. The second unicorn raises its head and says, "Thank you for staying with my sister. Is there anything I can do to repay you?" As a matter of fact, there is. You describe the problem facing your village. "Climb on my back and show me the way," replies the unicorn. You clutch its mane as the unicorn races through the forest towards your village. The end. I wonder if there's any other pages with the unicorn. I didn't find this ending, but there's another happy ending with the unicorn that lost its horn. The rainbow arches from the moon to the earth, and the unicorn's horn grows long and lustrous. You release the birds from the golden net, and they soar freely through the forest. So that must have been the choice back where, between talking with the animals or getting the golden net, because then it talks about the golden net here. And the unicorn says, "I owe you my life. How can I repay you?" And so then the unicorn comes to the village to purify the water. So that's a happy ending. I think I'll end on that note. That's the happiest one, because the unicorn gets its horn and the village gets the water cured. So I hope you enjoyed, and let me know if you want to hear the other ones that I got. I'll be reading those, so if anyone enjoys hearing them, I can share them on my channel. So I'll see you next time. Bye!